Welcome to our posts. Today we will see stories of our malicious compliance. Nun requires a haircut every week or get expelled? Sure thing. This is my husband's story from high school. Let's call him Phil. Phil attended a private Catholic school from kindergarten through graduation. He was, and still is, a long-haired hippie. All was well until his senior year when a new nun became principal. She was offended by this boy's long hair. She was also warned by some of the other teachers, nuns, not to get into it with him because no doubt, he will win. Phil and his father meet with the principal and offer a solution of wearing a wig so he doesn't have to cut his hair. The nun says no way. What if other kids decide to do that? Nun insists that he get his hair cut or he will be expelled. Father says okay. He will get his hair cut every week. And we will provide reciepts. Will that suffice? Nun agrees. Cue malicious compliance. Phil's dad takes him to the beauty shop, says cut as little as humanly possible off his hair. Hairdresser is all, why not just have me provide a receipt and not cut? Well, that wouldn't fly, because they're going to be totally honest about the whole thing. A cut every week with a receipt. The hairdresser proceeds to do a haircut every week, just to trim, mind you, and provides a receipt. The nun has no recourse. Phil graduates with longer and healthier hair than he started the year with. Next story. Santa is a hilariously evil master of MC. Now I would never ever do anything like this to my children. But Santa? That dude is an evil master. A few years ago the kids had their hearts set on getting tablets. We said no. We took the kids to get photos with Santa. Santa, and what do you want for Christmas this year? Kids, tablets. Santa, are you sick? Do you have headaches? Are you looking for Tylenol? Kids, no. Tablets. Like for games and stuff. Santa, oh. I don't know. I'll see what the elves can cook up. Seriously, this couldn't have gone any better. Imagine their surprise going through their stockings and finding bottles of Christmas Joy tablets from the North Pole Pharmacy Services with their names and all the typical other things you find on a prescription label. I guess those are your tablets. We said. Then a while later they opened up a pair of iPad mini boxes complete with slate tablets cut to fit in chalk. Oh, I guess Santa got you some stone tablets too. We said. Eventually a pair of electronic tablets showed up, but not before we had a great time enjoying Santa screwing with the kids. Next story. She wants a decorated house? She's going to get a decorated house. Merry late Christmas. My friends Adam and Belle have a story about one of their neighbors and how he managed to stuff a 5-pound bag of coal in a Karen's stocking this Christmas by using malicious compliance. This particular neighbor, Tim, and his wife, Frances, would go overboard on the outdoor decorations every Christmas. There'd be lights, garlands, wrought iron reindeer statues, snowflakes, candy canes, a 6-foot-tall Santa statue, a nativity set, etc., etc. It was its own brand of charm according to the neighbors. Unfortunately, earlier this year, Frances suffered a massive stroke and passed away. Tim was devastated, especially as Christmas came closer and closer. Frances's favorite holiday was Christmas. Tim told the neighbors around Thanksgiving that he wasn't going to decorate the house that year. It was just too painful without Frances there. Everyone was sad, but they understood. Unfortunately, Karen didn't get this memo. It's the week or so after Thanksgiving and people who haven't put up Christmas decorations are busy doing so. Adam and Belle were walking their dog, Domingo. Tim is out front of his house, getting the mail. Adam and Belle go up with Domingo to see Tim and say hello. While they're talking, a red minivan pulls into Tim's driveway. Karen steps out. Belle and Adam have never seen her before, but Tim recognizes her. Good morning, Karen. Yeah, hi. I was wondering if you were going to put up your Christmas decorations this year. Adam, Belle and Tim look at each other, uncomfortable. I'm not going to put up any decorations this year. Tim said. And why not? Karen asked. Christmas reminds me of Frances. Well, what about my kids? They've been looking forward to seeing the house decorated. And the fact that you're pretty much the only house that isn't decorated makes them really sad. What would Francis want? Belle, Adam, and Tim just stared in astonishment. We've had a pandemic and we need the cheering. They've been looking forward to this every year. Tim is looking both angry and broken-hearted. Adam and Belle are ready to tell Karen to go stuff it, but Karen sets the trap for Tim's malicious compliance. We're going to be here after church on Christmas Eve and this house better be decorated. And with that, Karen gets back into her minivan and drives off. Belle looks at Tim. And he's got a malicious smile on his face. She wants a decorated house? She's going to get a decorated house. The weeks pass and Tim starts getting several packages delivered. He also starts putting things up in the yard, but they're covered with bedsheets so they look like those Halloween ghosts. He also starts putting lights on the house. There's more lights than usual, but he doesn't turn them on at night. Karen and her minivan don't show up, even though Adam and Belle had alerted everyone in the neighborhood about her. Christmas Eve rolls around. Adam and Belle are invited to Tim's house for dinner and to watch the movie Scrooged. They are also asked to bring your own bottle. When they arrive, the curtains are drawn. Tim greets them with a big smile. They settle down and he details his plan, asking for their help. They're laughing at the end of it and eagerly agree. As they work, Belle notes that he's happier than they've seen him in a while. Tim says it's hopefully going to get even better. By this point, it's still just light enough that they can see what they're doing, but just dark enough that you can't see what's in the yard. They remove the bedsheets and laugh at all the decorations that have been set up. There's a nice dinner and watch the movie. Midway through the movie, Tim's alarm goes off on his cell phone. He pauses the movie, looks at Adam and Belle and says it's showtime. Everyone bundles up and they head to the sidewalk across the street. It's now pitch black and Tim's house still isn't lit up. There's the usual cars driving through the neighborhood, with Karen's red minivan being at the end of the line. Right on time, Tim says, taking a remote out of his coat pocket. They wait until the red minivan reaches the front. Tim presses the button. According to Belle, it was like the scene from Christmas Vacation when the Griswold's house turns on. There's red, white, and blue lights galore. The yard has eagle statues, stars, flags, banners, statues of liberty, etc. In the windows are lights that look like exploding fireworks. Tim grins and presses another button. All of a sudden, Star Spangled Banner begins to belt out through several speakers placed throughout the yard. As Adam, Belle and Tim are laughing as the minivan stops and parks. Karen gets out of the driver's seat and storms over to them. What is that? She shrieks, pointing to the house and looking about ready to blow a gasket. It's my salute to all nations, but mostly America, Tim said. Don't you like it? It's Christmas. Karen shouts. I wanted you to decorate the house for Christmas. You wanted a decorated house, Karen. You didn't say what holiday. With that, Karen flipped them off, got back in the minivan and drove off. Tim turned off the music and lights and they head back to Tim's house to finish Scrooged. Tim told Adam and Belle as they were leaving for the night, I think I'm going to decorate my house like this every Christmas. Francis would have gotten a kick out of it. Next story. Brad and the Table. This story was told to me by my friend Lucy. At the time, she lived in an army town and worked for many summers at a restaurant popular with the officers and their families. At this particular restaurant, which is on the higher end, there's a table reserved for high-ranking officers who visit the base. People who work there referred to it as the table. On busier nights when there isn't a higher-ranking officer in town, it's utilized to seat more patrons, but for the most part, it's left alone. It's Friday, so it's busy. There is a general visiting the base, so the table isn't being used just in case he decided to grace the establishment with his presence. Lucy is manning her section when the owner, named John for the purposes of this story, waves her down. She heads over and he tells her, I need you and Annie, another server, to help me man the table. The general is coming? She asked. Nope. Brad is. Lucy rolled her eyes. Brad was a local bigwig's high school-aged son, and he had it in his mind that he was a hot shot. He frequented the restaurant with his girl of the week and proceeded to make a nuisance of himself every time, but not enough to the point that he was asked to leave. Lucy asked John, "Are you sure? What if the general wants to eat dinner with us?" At this, John leaned in with a wide smile and said, "Apparently, the general called and told us to give Brad the table and to give him and his guests anything he wanted." Lucy then smiled as she realized what was about to happen. Brad was about to get a serving of malicious compliance on the house. 20 minutes later, Brad, wearing a West Point blazer, arrives with several young people. John makes a big show of greeting them and escorting them to the table. The people look around, impressed, and Brad proceeds to command Lucy, John, and Annie around like he owns the restaurant. The only good thing about this particular experience was that, due to him being underage, Brad and his buddies never tried to order any alcohol. Brad proceeded to be a nuisance, demanding more appetizers, sending food back because it wasn't cooked just right, ordering the most expensive entrees on the menu, yada, yada, yada. Lucy, Annie, and John continue with this, smiling as more and more food is added to the table. It's time for the check. Lucy told me that the entire group managed to rack up $843.29, not counting the mandatory gratuity because the party is above a certain size. Brad gets the bill. And he flips out. "What is this?" he barked, waving the check. "It's your check," John said. "The general said to let you order anything you wanted." Brad stands up to argue, and that's when the host rushes up, her face white. "John, the general is here," she whispered. Everyone turns to look, and there's the general with his entourage. John excuses himself before going over. He and the general start to talk for a few minutes, and Lucy notices Brad turning white and starting to get out of his seat. Annie looked at him and said, "You better not try a dine and dash," she said. "I really don't want to have to sick these nice officers on you." Brad sat down and fidgeted. John and the general come back to the table. Making eye contact with Brad, John said, "Brad, you said the good general here insisted you have the table and that you can order anything you want. Is this true?" He only nodded. "Well, the general here said that he never made no such phone call." "That's odd," Brad said before looking at the general. "I'm pretty sure it was you I talked to." Sir. I have the phone number. Let's call it," John said, pulling out his cell phone and dialing a number. That's when they hear Brad's brand new cell phone going off in his pocket. The general held his hand out and Brad puts the phone in his hand. He checks the number and asks John, "Is your number 123-456-7890? "It is," John said. The general then proceeded to get a serious look on his face. "Brad, are you a cadet?" "I'm being considered for an appointment," Brad said. The general nodded. "I suggest you pay your bill, tip in full, and apologize to the staff for your behavior," he said to Brad. "I also suggest withdrawing your name as soon as possible to save yourself the embarrassment." Keeping his head down, Brad paid the bill, meekly apologized, and left with his sycophants. The general and his entourage patiently waited for the table to be cleared and set. They proceeded to have a nice meal, leaving a generous tip and apologizing for people like Brad. Lucy proceeded to have a wonderful Brad-free career. I hope you guys liked this video. If you did, make sure like, comment, share and subscribe the channel or posts.